The stars were quiet. Across 7 galaxies, space felt wrong. Not empty, just silent. No trade ships moved between worlds. No war fleets burned through the dark. No signals carried music, news, or laughter. It was the kind of silence that came before something terrible. Many ancient races believed the universe had finally grown tired. On the central world of the Aurelian Council, the oldest alliance in known space, leaders gathered in a great hall made of living crystal. The crystal once glowed bright blue. Now it was dim, almost gray, like a dying star. The council members were not weak beings. Some were older than human history. Some had ruled galaxies for millions of years. They had survived supernovas, dark ages, and endless wars. But today, fear sat among them. "The collapse is accelerating," said the archivist of Kelt, a tall being with many eyes. His voice echoed softly. 3 more star clusters went dark this cycle. A low sound spread through the hall. Not words, not anger. It was a sound of acceptance. "We predicted this," replied the Stone Empress of Voluin. Her body was carved from living rock. Cracks ran across her surface now. Energy decay. Space-time thinning. The universe is reaching its limit. Another voice spoke, calm but tired. All things end. No one argued. The 7 galaxies had tried everything. Ancient weapons, reality shields, time locks. Nothing stopped the slow death spreading through space. Stars burned out too fast. Planets lost gravity. Entire systems faded like forgotten memories. Hope was a resource they had already spent. A smaller council member finally asked a question no one wanted to hear. "Is there any species still active?" The archivist checked the data streams. Most were red, dead, gone. "There are a few minor civilizations," he said. "Scattered, weak. They will not last long." A pause. Then he added, almost as an afterthought, "And humanity." A soft sound moved through the hall. Some laughed. Others clicked their tongues in disbelief. "Humans," said one elder, his voice sharp. "They are short-lived, emotional, always fighting among themselves." "They never built great empires," another added. "They were never a threat." "They are irrelevant," said the Stone Empress. "If the end has come for us, it has surely come for them." The archivist nodded. "That was our assumption." Before anyone could ask more, a warning tone rang through the chamber. It was old, very old. A signal reserved for events that should not exist anymore. The central display activated. "Unknown transmission detected," the system announced. "Origin dead Sector 9. The council stiffened. Dead Sector 9 had been silent for centuries. No stars. No life. Only broken gravity and cold dust. "That region was abandoned long ago," said the archivist. "Nothing can survive there." The signal grew clearer. "This is impossible," the Stone Empress said. "Source identification in progress." The system continued. Signal pattern non-hostile. The hall fell silent again. The transmission was not random noise. It was structured, controlled, strong, too strong. A translation began to form. Symbols shifted into common galactic language. But the message was not what anyone expected. It was not a cry for help. It was not a warning of danger. It was a statement. "This is a general notice to all listening civilizations. The collapse has entered its final phase. Do not attempt evacuation through unstable corridors. You will not survive." The council stared in shock. "Who would send such a message?" one elder whispered. The system answered before anyone else could. "Signal origin confirmed," it said. "Species classification, human." Silence returned, but this time it was heavy. Humans were giving instructions. Humans were issuing warnings. That alone made no sense. "Perhaps it is a false signal," someone said quickly. "A malfunction, or an automated beacon left behind." But the message continued. "We advise all species to remain in their current systems. Rescue attempts will be initiated when conditions allow. Repeat, do not move." Rescue. The word felt unreal. The 7 galaxies could not save themselves. Entire empires had fallen trying. And yet, humans were speaking as if help was already planned. The archivist checked deeper layers of the signal. His eyes widened. This transmission is not using standard power sources, he said slowly. It is stable, clean, stronger than anything we have seen in centuries. That would require massive energy, the Stone Emperor said. From where? No one answered. Another council member leaned forward. Where exactly is the signal coming from? The display shifted. Coordinates appeared. Human space. But not the human space they remembered. This region should have been dark, broken, dead. Instead, faint lights appeared. Then more. Then entire structures. Huge shapes bending space around them. Megastructures. Active. Organized. Alive. This cannot be recent, the archivist said. These constructions would take centuries. The council felt something unfamiliar. Not fear, not hope, uncertainty. The humans they remember were survivors, not builders of miracles. They were fighters, not planners of eternity. And yet, the data did not lie. The signal repeated one final time, clearer than before. We know you are listening. We know you are afraid. The universe is not ending today. Please wait. The transmission ended. The Great Hall remained silent. For the first time since the collapse began, the 7 galaxies face a new question. The council could not believe what they saw. The signal from humans had vanished, leaving only echoes in the crystal hall. Every member stared at the data streams, trying to understand what the species had accomplished in a space no one thought possible. They should be gone, the Stone Empress of Volume muttered. Her cracked surface shimmered as if shaking with disbelief. Humans, they should not exist anymore. They survived, said the archivist of Celt. Not just survived, they prepared. No one spoke. Silence filled the hall, heavier than before. Humans were always considered weak, fragile, and short-lived. They were emotional, reckless, and unpredictable. Not leaders, not conquerors, not even a minor power worth noticing in the grand scale of the 7 galaxies. And yet, here they were, defying every expectation. The Council summoned alien scouts to human space. Ships capable of moving faster than light, armed with weapons meant to destroy entire systems, were sent cautiously. The scouts expected ruins, dead planets, silent cities, lifeless towers. What they found instead shocked them to their cores. Human cities stretched across multiple planets. Gigantic structures bent the natural flow of space. Energy flowed through intricate networks, alive and controlled. The humans were not just surviving, they were thriving. They built this in the shadows of the universe, asked one scout. Without anyone noticing, another whispered. The Stone Empress's voice trembled. Humans, they were never part of the Great Wars. They were insignificant. Yes, but now they are something else. And the humans themselves were not hiding. The scouts observed humans walking among their machines, calm, composed, and purposeful. They did not fight. They did not panic. They did not even look at the alien ships with fear. They simply continued their work, as if knowing the universe had its own clock and they were just adjusting its hands. The archivist studied the signals and the structures. They did not fight to survive, he said slowly. They fought to plan, to prepare, to endure, to protect others. The alien scouts returned with images and data. The council stared for hours, trying to process the impossible truth. Humans, the species that had been laughed at for millennia, had been quietly preparing for the end of the universe itself. They are extraordinary, admitted the youngest council member. Not for strength, not for power, but for patience, for endurance, for hope. No one spoke after that. Even the archivist, who had seen civilizations rise and fall, could not find words. Then, another transmission appeared. A human voice this time, calm, measured, almost melodic. We know the collapse is near. We know you fear. Do not move yet. Everything has a place in the plan. Patience is not weakness. The council shivered, not from fear, but from realization. These humans had survived everything the universe could throw at them. And now, when all hope seemed gone, they were ready. Not just for themselves, but for everyone. The Stone Emperor spoke finally, voice barely audible. We have underestimated them for too long. The archivist nodded. And that mistake may change the fate of the 7 galaxies. In the dark, cold corners of dead space, the humans had built a fortress of hope. Silent, invisible, powerful. And now, the 7 galaxies had no choice but to watch and wait. A single thought echoed through the council. The humans we laughed at may be the ones who save us all. The humans' work was unlike anything the council had ever seen. Scout ships floated silently over planets that should have been dead. Cities stretched across continents, not in the messy chaos the aliens expected, but in perfect order. Massive towers twisted space itself, bending gravity and energy into channels that seemed impossible. Lights pulsed rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat, spreading across the planets like a living network. The alien scouts could hardly believe their eyes. How did they build this?" whispered one scout. "Without anyone noticing for centuries." "They were hiding in plain sight," said another. "Or maybe the universe allowed them to." The Stone Empress of Volume watched the data carefully. "They were preparing for something far beyond their years," she said. "They knew the collapse was coming. Not yesterday, not last century, but centuries ago." The archivist nodded. "They planned not to fight, not to conquer, but to save. Not just themselves, but others. Every calculation, every construction, every energy field. It is not for war. It is for survival for life." The council felt a mix of awe and fear. Humans had always been underestimated, short-lived, emotional, and fragile. They were never considered capable of enduring a galactic-scale threat. Yet here they were, defying every assumption. The scouts tried to communicate, sending messages, hailing the humans. There was no panic, no confusion, only calm acknowledgement. And then the humans spoke, not to defend, not to boast, but to inform. The universe is ending slowly, but it is not unstoppable. We cannot stop the collapse completely, but we can contain it, and we can save as much as possible. Stay where you are. Trust the process. Help will come. The council's ancient members were silent. They had been trying to survive for millennia, building massive shields, weapons, and fleets. None of their methods had worked. And now, a species they once ignored was giving instructions, clear, precise, and confident. "They are not strong by conventional measures," said the archivist. "They are something else, something different. Patience, sacrifice, planning. These are their weapons." The human structure spread across the planets like a networked organism. Energy flowed through nodes into massive engines hidden underground, pulsating with raw power. The scouts detected patterns that suggested the humans were manipulating space-time itself, stabilizing dying stars, redirecting collapsing energy fields, and creating safe corridors across dangerous regions. The humans had called it the Continuum Engine. The name was simple, almost humble, but the scale of the machine was anything but. Entire planetary systems acted as parts of a vast mechanism. Energy collected from dying stars, recycled from black holes, and stored in crystals millions of times harder than any known metal. Every action had a purpose. Every part of the engine was synchronized across centuries of work. "They are controlling the flow of collapse," one scout whispered. "Yes," another replied. "Not fighting it, not destroying it, containing it, guiding it, living with it." The council had never imagined a solution like this. All their wars, shields, and fleets were reactive. Humans, however, had been proactive, and the more they learned, the more impossible it seemed. And yet, there was a cost. Signals from human space showed vast sacrifices. Some planets were partially destroyed, their resources fully consumed to feed the engine. Millions of volunteers, humans of all ages, worked tirelessly, knowing they might not survive the activation. Energy fields emitted warnings that life might be lost, but no one hesitated. The council watched in awe as humans demonstrated something the galaxy had forgotten: courage without arrogance, sacrifice without fear, and planning without expectation of reward. Even alien historians, who had studied countless civilizations rise and fall, could not explain it. The humans' calm, measured confidence spoke louder than any weapon. While the 7 galaxies panicked and debated, humans acted. And the most shocking part? The humans did not care if anyone knew. They did not broadcast their efforts. They did not seek glory. They prepared silently, patiently, for a future that even the oldest species could barely imagine. The archivist finally said aloud what all felt, but no one wanted to admit. If the collapse can be survived, it will be because of them. Not us, not our fleets, not our shields. Humans. And as the alien scouts returned to the council, one thought spread quietly through every mind. The species we ignored, the species we laughed at, has been ready for this moment far longer than any of us could have dreamed. For the first time in centuries, the 7 galaxies face a question that chilled them to the core. What else have humans done in the shadows, while we were too proud to look? And behind that question lurked another, even more dangerous thought. If humans are ready, what does that mean for the rest of us? The collapse was no longer a distant threat. Stars across the 7 galaxies began to die faster than anyone predicted. Systems that were stable yesterday flickered and vanished today. Trade routes collapsed. Communication networks went silent. The 7 galaxies, the oldest, strongest empires in known space, watched helplessly as entire star clusters faded into darkness. The Aurelian Council convened urgently. For centuries, they had debated solutions, but now debate was useless. Weapons could not stop the collapse. Shields could not contain it. Even time-manipulating devices had failed. Nothing could prevent the slow, relentless end. Millions of lives at risk, the archivist said, is multiple eyes scanning the decaying star maps. Entire civilizations will vanish within the cycle. The stone empress of Voluin remained calm, though her stone surface trembled. All we can do is evacuate what remains, and hope somehow someone can save them. Then, the council received another transmission. It was from humans. Evacuation is not the answer. We have created corridors, safe paths through collapse. Follow our instructions carefully. Survival is possible. For a moment, no one could speak. Safe paths? The collapse was unpredictable. Entire systems vanished without warning. No shield, no fleet of gods could survive it. And yet, the humans promised a way. Alien scouts returned immediately. They saw what the humans had prepared. Massive corridors of energy stretched across collapsing space. Stars, instead of dying chaotically, were stabilized in tiny bubbles. Time flows were corrected along dangerous paths. Planets that should have been crushed were shielded long enough to allow travel. This is impossible, whispered Scout. Nothing in known physics allows this. The humans move with precision. Their ships were smaller, fewer, and weaker than the alien war fleets. But their coordination was flawless. They did not fight. They did not panic. They guided ships from dying worlds, rescued entire populations, and even assisted alien refugees, some of whom had once fought against humanity. The council watched in awe. Fear turned into confusion, and confusion slowly shifted into respect. They are saving everyone, said the archivist quietly. Not just themselves. Yes, the Stone Empress admitted. Humans do not fight for glory. They fight to protect. Even strangers. Even enemies. The collapse continued. Stars fell. Planets cracked. Entire civilizations vanished despite the humans' efforts. But the corridors worked. Countless lives were saved. The humans moved quickly, sacrificing resources, energy, and even some of their own worlds to stabilize the most dangerous regions first. One scout transmitted images of humans on a dying planet, carefully coordinating the evacuation of alien populations. Families, human and alien, worked side by side, some holding children, some carrying energy cores. They move as one, calm, fearless, and focused. The council felt something unfamiliar. Humility. They had fought for eons, built fleets to dominate, shields to control. And now, a species they had ignored, one they thought weak, was saving the galaxy. Are they gods? Asked one council member in disbelief. No, said the archivist firmly. They are humans, and they are extraordinary. As the collapse accelerated, the humans activated a Continuum Engine across multiple systems. Pulses of energy created temporary stability zones, allowing civilizations to survive even when entire stars were destroyed. Alien leaders could not comprehend how this was possible. And then came the moment that silenced the Council entirely. Humans began rescuing worlds that had been declared lost decades ago. Planets without resources, civilizations on the brink of extinction. Nothing stopped them. They moved through space like a tide of hope, bringing light where only darkness remained. The Stone Empress whispered, almost to herself, "We believed everything was over, and yet they are only beginning." The archivist nodded. "If anyone in the 7 galaxies survives this collapse, it will be because of them. Humans do not merely endure. They rise, even in the face of impossible odds." And so, as the 7 galaxies began to fall, the humans became a quiet storm of salvation, guiding, saving, and reshaping the fate of all life around them. One thought spread through the Council and the scouts alike. We thought the universe was ending. We were wrong. The universe is just beginning through the humans. The humans had slowed the collapse, saved countless lives, and created corridors where none should have existed. Yet the universe was far from done testing them. A new threat appeared, one that not even the oldest races in the 7 galaxies could understand. It was not a fleet, not a species, not even a war machine. It was a force, a cosmic predator that devoured energy, matter, and even the flow of time itself. Stars disappeared without explosion. Entire planets folded into nothingness. Black holes warped and grew unnaturally, consuming surrounding systems. The ancient races panicked. Ships fled. Fleets fired in desperation. Weapons that could obliterate planets were launched. Shields rose in a futile attempt to protect entire systems. Nothing worked. "This is impossible," whispered the archivist to Kelt. His many eyes reflected the horror across the collapsing galaxies. "Even our combined power cannot stop it." The Stone Empress of Voluan's voice trembled. "We could delay it, maybe, but containment? Impossible. Only sacrifice remains." Then came the humans. Human scouts appeared in the collapsing regions, small and seemingly fragile. Their ships were nowhere near the size or firepower of alien fleets. But the humans did not attack. They did not fight. They observed. They measured. They calculated. And then they acted. The humans did not attempt to destroy the cosmic predator. That would be suicide. Instead, they created vast energy barriers, bending space-time itself to redirect the force, guiding it along pre-planned paths. "We cannot stop it. We can only contain it," a human commander transmitted calmly. Alien fleets could only watch in awe. Humans moved like a living algorithm, precise and unafraid. They activated massive engines, the Continuum Engine pulsing across multiple systems, and created channels of stability, trapping parts of the cosmic force temporarily, redirecting its destructive energy into uninhabited regions. "This is a new form of warfare," one council member said. "They are not fighting. They are surviving, controlling, redirecting." The human strategy was not without cost. Entire worlds and energy systems were sacrificed to power the containment fields. Millions of humans volunteered for dangerous missions, knowing their lives might be lost. And yet, no hesitation, no panic, only focus, only determination. "Why?" whispered an alien historian. "Why risk so much for species that are not even ours?" The answer became clear as more systems were stabilized. Humans were not motivated by glory, power, or territory. They acted out of a simple principle: protect life wherever possible. Allies, enemies, strangers, it did not matter. The cosmic force roared through space, unpredictable and unstoppable. Yet the humans turned chaos into order. Their containment grids bent the force along predetermined paths, slowing its devouring progress. Systems that should have been lost were saved. Civilizations that should have been erased survived. The council members were silent, watching humans sacrifice and maneuver with a precision none of them could match. "They are extraordinary," the Stone Empress admitted. "Not because they are stronger, but because they understand what matters." The archivist nodded slowly. "Humans do not seek to conquer the universe. They seek to preserve it. Even against forces we cannot fight, they act with purpose. The alien scouts reported one more shocking development. Humans had begun communicating with the cosmic force itself. Not with weapons, not with machines, but with patterns of energy, frequencies, and pulses. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, they were learning to predict its movements, guide it, even contain parts of it without physical confrontation. The Council felt something they had not felt in millennia. Hope. For the first time, the collapse did not feel like the end. It felt like a challenge, and the humans were rising to meet it. And as the cosmic predator moved closer, threatening entire civilizations, the aliens whisper among themselves, if this is what humans can do against a force that even gods cannot stop, what else are they capable of? The battle to contain the cosmic force was not fought with weapons. It was fought with sacrifice. Humanity had already guided fleets, stabilized collapsing stars, and created safe corridors. But now, the true cost of their courage became clear. Every step forward demanded a price: resources, energy, and lives. Millions of volunteers prepared for missions from which they might never return. Entire systems were devoted to powering the Continuum Engine. Some planets were stripped bare, their energy cores drained to sustain the containment fields. The Council of the Seven Galaxies watched from afar, awestruck and silent. They had fought wars, built empires, wielded powers that could destroy worlds. But never had they seen a species willingly risk everything to save others. A human commander spoke through the communication network, calm and clear. We cannot stop the collapse entirely, but we can save billions. Some of us will not survive. That is the cost. We accept it. On dozens of planets, families said goodbye. Parents kissed children. Friends clasped hands. Volunteers boarded ships knowing they would not return. Yet there was no panic, no hysteria, only focus and determination. The humans understood the stakes, and they faced them without fear. Alien observers could not hide their disbelief. Some whispered to one another, "They are willing to die to save others." "Yes," replied another, "even enemies, even strangers." The Continuum Engine roared to life across multiple systems. Massive pulses of energy spread through space, stabilizing collapsing stars and redirecting the cosmic force. Planets that should have crumbled remained intact. Civilizations that were on the brink of extinction were saved. And yet, the energy demands were immense. Humans gave their own worlds, their own life energy to feed the engine. Cities glowed with unbearable power before fading into silence. Entire fleets were lost to dangerous missions, their crews sacrificing everything to keep the paths open for others. Through it all, the humans never wavered. They moved with purpose. They worked together. They endured pain, loss, and destruction without complaint. Their courage was quiet, but it shone brighter than any weapon or star. The Stone Empress of Voluin whispered to the Archivist, "I have lived millions of years. I have fought empires, witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations. But never have I seen such strength. Never have I seen true sacrifice like this." The Archivist nodded slowly, eyes wide. "They are extraordinary, not for power, not for speed, not for weapons, but for their will, their unity, their willingness to risk everything for life itself." The Council watched as humans carried alien refugees, even from worlds that had once been at war with them. They healed the wounded, protected the weak, and guided the lost. Even in the face of annihilation, humans chose empathy, courage, and selflessness over survival alone. The cost was immense. Countless human lives were lost. Planets were scarred. Fleets were destroyed. Energy systems burned out. And yet, the sacrifice achieved the impossible. The cosmic force was slowed, contained, and guided along paths where it could do the least harm. When the last pulse of the Continuum Engine echoed through space, billions of beings had survived where death had seemed inevitable. The Council members stared in silence, unable to speak. The Archivist finally said, almost to himself, "If the universe is saved, it will be because of humans. Not because they sought glory, not because they sought power, but because they chose to protect life, even at the cost of their own." And far across the galaxies, the humans, some still alive, some lost to history, had made a statement louder than any weapon. When the universe falls, humanity does not ask who will survive. They ask who needs saving. For the 7 galaxies, the lesson was clear. Humans were not weak, short-lived, or insignificant. They were patient, fearless, and willing to endure anything to protect life itself. In the darkest hour, when the universe seemed lost, humanity had proven its greatest strength. The universe held its breath. After centuries of fear, collapse, and loss, the moment had come. The Continuum Engine, fueled by the courage and sacrifice of humanity, reached its peak. Energy surged across the galaxies, stabilizing dying stars, healing fractured space, and closing rifts that threatened to swallow entire systems. For the first time in millennia, the 7 galaxies could breathe. Alien leaders watched from their command ships, still trembling at what they had witnessed. Entire civilizations had survived because of humans, not through overwhelming force, but through unity, intelligence, and sacrifice. Impossible, muttered the stone Empress of Voluin. Her cracked stone surface glowed faintly with reflection. We believed the universe was ending, and yet it lives. The archivist of Kelt remained silent for a long moment, then finally spoke. The humans, they did not just endure. They reshaped the fate of the universe itself. Across the galaxies, planets glowed again. Stars pulsed with life. The cosmic force, once unstoppable, was now trapped within human-engineered channels. Systems that had been lost for centuries began to stabilize. Life, once thought gone, began to thrive again. The alien scouts reported something remarkable. Humans had not only stabilized space, they had rescued entire alien populations, even those who had once been their enemies. They had healed, protected, and restored balance to regions that no other civilization could have touched. For many alien species, it was a revelation. They had built empires, wielded weapons, and claimed knowledge across millennia. Yet humans, a species they had underestimated, had achieved what none of them could. They are not like us, one council member said quietly. They do not seek power. They do not crave domination. They act for life itself. Even those who had fought humans in the past could not deny the truth. Humanity had become a symbol of hope, courage, and resilience. A species once considered fragile and insignificant now stood at the center of the galaxy, not with pride, but with purpose. The Continuum Engine powered down slowly, its energy distributed evenly across stabilized systems. Where there had been death, there was life. Where there had been despair, there was hope. Where the universe had been ending, it was now beginning anew. The Stone Empress turned to the archivist. We believed the end was certain. We prepared for death. And yet, humanity taught us something far more valuable than survival. The archivist nodded. Patience, sacrifice, unity, courage. These are not powers we can wield. These are choices humans make every day. And those choices have saved us all. Across the 7 galaxies, news of humanity's achievement spread. For the first time, alien civilizations began to see humans not as weak, short-lived, or insignificant, but as guardians of life. The stories of their courage inspired even the most ancient races. The sacrifices of millions of humans were remembered, honored, and celebrated. And yet, humanity did not linger. The species that had saved the universe remained quietly in its corner of space. They did not demand praise, fleets, or rewards. They had acted because it was necessary. They had fought not for glory, but for life itself. For the first time, the 7 galaxies understood a truth they had long ignored. Strength is not measured by weapons or empires, but by the courage to endure, the wisdom to act, and the willingness to sacrifice for greater good. And humanity, in that moment, became the living embodiment of that truth. The archivist of Kelt whispered, almost to himself, the universe has changed, not because of us, but because of them. The stars twinkled in renewed light. Planets breathed again. And the 7 galaxies, once certain of their end, now looked toward the future with something they had almost forgotten. Hope. The humans had done more than survive. They had redefined what it meant to be powerful in the universe. And the galaxies would never be the same again. Years passed. The 7 galaxies were no longer on the brink of collapse. Stars shone again, trade routes reopened, and civilizations slowly rebuilt what had been lost. The cosmic force had been contained. The Continuum Engine had stabilized space, and life, once thought doomed, had a future. And yet, the humans had vanished. Alien scouts returned to human space to find planets quiet, cities empty, and ships grounded. For a brief moment, panic spread among the council. Had the humans sacrificed everything? Had they disappeared entirely? Then came the transmission. Calm, measured, and familiar. We remain. We have chosen to step back for now. The universe is alive again. It is yours to protect. We acted not for glory, but because it was necessary. Use this gift wisely. The words resonated across the 7 galaxies. For the first time, alien civilizations truly understood humanity, not as conquerors, not as rulers, but as guardians of life. The archivist of Kelt spoke to the council, voice trembling. We underestimated them for centuries. We called them weak, emotional, short-lived, and yet they have reshaped the fate of the universe. They are patient. They are wise. They are humanity. In the following years, humans returned, but changed. Not as rulers, not as conquerors, not even as heroes seeking recognition. They returned quietly, observing, guiding, and assisting when necessary. Their presence inspired cooperation among alien civilizations. Old wars ended. New alliances formed. Knowledge and technology were shared freely. The legacy of humanity became more than survival. It became a standard of existence. Empires learned patience. Civilizations learned sacrifice. Leaders learned to act not for themselves, but for the greater good. Stories of human courage spread. Across the galaxies, parents told their children about the humans who had saved billions, who had faced impossible odds without fear, who had given everything to protect life. Temples, monuments, and memory fields were built, not to worship, but to remember the lesson. True power is not strength alone, but the will to act for others. Even the ancient races, some older than galaxies themselves, began to speak of humans with reverence. Not because of fear, not because of weapons, but because humans had demonstrated something they had long forgotten. Hope in the face of despair and courage in the face of annihilation. And humans themselves? They continued their work silently, quietly teaching, guiding, and watching the galaxies thrive. They understood that their greatest achievement was not saving the universe, but inspiring it to care for itself and for each other. The Stone Empress of Voluin, watching a new star cluster come to life, spoke quietly to the archivist. When the universe was ending, we feared death, but humanity asked who needed saving. They reminded us why we live. Not to rule, not to conquer, but to protect. The archivist nodded. And that is the legacy of humanity. Not power, not glory, but hope. And that will endure for all time. Across the 7 galaxies, life flourished. The collapse was a memory. The cosmic force contained, and civilizations began anew. And somewhere in the quiet corners of space, humanity watched. Not as conquerors, not as rulers, but as guardians of the universe, a living reminder that true greatness is measured not by what you take, but by what you give. When the universe was ending, humanity did not ask who would survive. They asked who needed saving. The galaxies would never forget.